and all the 14 level 5 hospitals submitted their financial statement for audit. Hospitals not submitting their financial statement to the Auditor General for audit points to a wanting level of non-compliance with the reporting requirement as required under the PFM Act. Madam Speaker, we have noted a number of counties which have not been submitting reports, financial report to the Auditor General. And this includes Nairobi County, which has not been submitting financial statement, Narok and others. Madam Speaker, as a committee, we have agreed to invite these counties to explain to us why they have not been submitting financial statement for their hospitals, because it is contrary to the Public Audit Act and the PFM Act. Madam Speaker, from the reports of the Auditor General on hospitals, the committee observed that nearly all the hospitals in our counties were ill-equipped and ill-prepared for the universal health care, UHS, as they were not properly understaffed and ill-equipped to offer critical services that are required in hospitals like radiology, dialysis, and other specialized medical care. Madam Speaker, we also broke new grounds by starting to investigate the reports for municipalities, which was another new for the Senate, which had not been looking at municipalities. Honorable Speaker, the data available indicates that there are 110 gazetted municipalities established by 45 counties, with the Nairobi and Mombasa cities being deemed to be counties as stipulated under Section 6 and 27 of the Urban Areas and Cities Act, Cap 275. Kiambu County records the highest number of municipalities at 12 municipalities. The committee noted that most municipalities lacked autonomy in terms of their function, their management, and finances, that adversely affecting the performance of various municipalities in service delivery in our counties. We noted that the Department of Lands and Physical Planning has been running municipalities contrary to the law in most of these municipalities, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we'll be coming up with a report on the financial audit report for all the municipalities in the country. And we also hope that this is another major source of on-source revenue in our counties, that with the proper governance, we are going to see a rise in the level of on-source revenue. Meeting with the stakeholders, during the period under review, Madam Speaker, the committee met with key stakeholders, including the Honorable Attorney General and the Auditor General, to deliberate on a number of issues affecting counties. The upcoming activities and reports, Honorable Madam Speaker, the committee has also adopted a total of 108 reports of all the water companies in Kenya, and we have processed them for tabling and debate in this House. Madam Speaker, this is the first level of audit reports for these water companies. From next year, the committee will be starting the second level of review of the audit report for water companies, which includes the current reports up to the year ended 2023. The committee plans to conduct fact-finding visits to various counties, subject to availability of funds, to inspect the various water companies, report writing, and continue to interrogate audit report for hospitals, municipalities, and corporations in our county. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, from the interaction with the different county executive, the committee continues to observe that there is an apparent wastage and misappropriation of public resources in our counties. particularly the public funds which are established in our county. And of concern, Madam Speaker, is the bursary funds in our counties. Bursary funds in our counties have been misappropriated. And I think this House has to take a stand that bursaries, it is high time that we abolish bursary funds in our counties, because that is not a devolved function and the funds continue to be misused. I therefore implore the individual senators to enhance the oversight role through the Senate oversight function and ensure that the funds established in our counties and other entities are adequately monitored and observed to ensure that we get value for money for our people. I further wish to implore the House and its committees to hold governors to account for public resources under their control, noting that governors are the chief executive officers of counties as per Article 179 of the Constitution. They are responsible and the buck stops with them. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I submit. Honorable Godfrey Osotsi, Chairperson, CPIC.
Thank you, Senator Osotsi. We will now receive a statement from statement pursuant to Standing Order 57-1 from the Senate Majority Leader. He will issue a statement on the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 8th October 2024. Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a statement by the Majority Leader on the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 8th of October, 2024, which is pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1. Madam Speaker, this is the statement of the business for the week that commences on the 8th of October, 2024. With respect to the business of the Senate, the status of legislative business is as follows. There are 60 bills that are pending conclusion, of which 47 are at the second reading stage, while 13 are at the committee of the whole stage. 30 motions, including the ones in the order paper for today, under notices of motion are pending conclusion. 21 petitions are due for reporting in the respective standing committees. 419 statements are pending before standing committees. On Tuesday, the 8th of October 2024, the SBC will meet to consider the business for the week. Tentative business for that day will include business not concluded from the order paper, as well as business indicated in the notice appended to order paper. The tentative business for morning sitting of Wednesday, the 9th of October 2024 will include schedule of questions to Cabinet Secretaries as approved by the SBC, as well as motions. The summary of questions, Madam Speaker, are as follows. There's a question to the CS for ASAL by Senator Rachel Murgor, and another one to the CS of Diaspora and Foreign Affairs by Senator Edwin Sifuna. There's question number 49 by Senator George Mbugua to the CS for Health. Question number 75 to the CS for Health from Senator Peris Tebuiko. There's a question by Senator Jackson Mandago to the CS for Health. Another one to the CS for Health as well by Senator Agnes Kavindu. Another one to Senator Joyce Korir, and last but not least, to the CS for Health by Senator Hamida Kibwana. The business for the afternoon sitting on Wednesday, 9th October 2024 will include business not concluded in the order paper for Tuesday, 8th of October 2024, and the following. The bills that are at second reading stage, which are the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Amendment Bill, the County Government's Election Laws Amendment Bill, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, County Civic Education Bill, County Statistics Bill, Provisions of Sanitary Towels Bill, and the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill. The bills that are the Committee of the Whole, which are the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, the Nuts and Oil Crops Development Bill, the Public Transport Motorcycle Regulation Bill, the Street Vendors Protection of Livelihood Bill, the Fire and Rescue Services Professionals Bill, Local Content Bill, Early Childhood Education Bill, Land Amendment Bill, Intergovernmental Relation Bill, Energy Amendment Bill, National Disaster Risk Management Bill, and the Cooperative Societies Bill. Reports of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on inquiry into the welfare of workers in EPZs in Mombasa and Kilifi counties. There is a report also on the Standing Committee on Devolution on the intergovernmental relations into the inquiry of the personal security concerns raised by Honorable Philomena Kapkori, the DG of Trans Nzoia. Reports of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on its inquiry into the state of markets in Vihiga and Bungoma County visits arising from a statement sought by Senator Godfrey Osotsi and Senator David Wakoli. There is also a motion on the report of the Select Committee on CPIC and Special Funds on its consideration of audit report of the various water services company for financial year 2018-19, Volume 6, 19-20, Volume 7, 2021 financial year, Volume 9. There is also a motion on the development of policy and law for social risk management in infrastructure development projects in Kenya. There's a consolidation of bursary funds for equitable access to education in Kenya and steps to effective management in cities, towns, and urban areas in the country. The projected business for Thursday, 10th of October 2024 will include business not included in the order papers for Tuesday, 8th of October 2024 and Wednesday, 9th of October 2024. Any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you and hereby, Madam Speaker, sorry, I thank you and hereby do lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. There are senators who would wish to to debate the statements that have been brought before the House. Senator Chirarike Samson Kiprotich.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry. One, I would want to make a few comments. One, on the statement by Senator Ezena Lemaletian on the status of roads in Samburu. Mr. Speaker, I want to concur with her that I would have expected the chairperson of roads, transport and housing, Senator Karungo Adangwa, to tell the House how many roads have stalled in Kenya. Because in Nandi County, Madam Speaker, we have a number of stalled roads like Chemuswa Danger, Kurgung Chepterua, Chepsaita Kapkatembu Road, Kobere Maraba Timborua Road, Celia Kaiboi Chepkober Road in Talai, Nandil Simaki Road, Nandils Mugundo Enego Safani Road, Moi University Lesos Center, Kilibwani Junction Road. All these roads, Madam Speaker, have stalled. And therefore, I want to ask the Roads Committee, they should give us a breakdown of stalled roads, including that are in Nandi, because on all six constituencies in Nandi, Madam Speaker, most of the roads that were rated to bitumen standards have either stalled or they are yet to be started, Mr. Speaker. So we needed guidance from the Roads Committee that these roads must be fixed. And you know, Madam Speaker, in Nandi, just like Richo, Bomet, Wazingishu, and even up to Meru, up to Nyandarua, Madam Speaker, the roads are very pathetic because our counties are rainy, Madam Speaker, and you find farmers are hard to transport things like perishable, like milk, even in Murang'a, like coffee, like tea, like maize, Madam Speaker, even transportation of sugarcane, Madam Speaker. And I'm happy the member of Kisumu is here, Senator Professor Tom Ojienda. We suffer both because we share the transportation, and I'm happy in mediation bill, Madam Speaker, we are even proposing under Sugar Development Levy Fund to put into the sugar board to ensure roads within the cess that are paid for within the sugar growing areas, Madam Speaker, we can maintain those roads. So in Nandi, Madam Speaker, we hope these roads can be fixed into the future to allow our economy to thrive. Number two, Madam Speaker, I would have expected the Senate Majority Leader, and I wish he would be listening. While I appreciate Senator Edama Olekina is now part of government, Madam Speaker, I would want him to listen to us, the majority. I would have expected him to give us the status, Madam Speaker, on the functionality of the House. Madam Speaker, you remember a few weeks ago, we were being told the operations of the Senate the operations of the Senate were likely to be affected, Madam Speaker, and Senate machinani, and we have a pending bill of around 500 million. I want to appeal to Senate Majority Leader, even if he does not state it on the floor of the House in the plenary, Madam Speaker, he should at least call us for a Kamukunji with your office so that we can iron some of these challenges. And I can see my law lecturer, Professor Tom Ojienda, who taught me principles of conveyancing, is excited because he's the one who arrived in government before others, and I'm told he has been serving teen state house. Madam Speaker, finally on the nightclubs, I saw the final, this will be finally on Senator Amidas. I have seen the chief officer of Nairobi City County walking around, closing clubs like Quiver, closing churches, closing mosques. Madam Speaker, I saw the CS in charge of environment, Adan Bare Duale, the lion of Garissa, who was sent to the forest, as per the reporter, Madam Speaker, saying there is too much noise from clubs and churches. What he forgot also, he should ask the mosque, Madam Speaker, so that we don't appear discriminative. So as he moves out to control the noise pollution across the city, Madam Speaker, we must be told, Madam Speaker, this issue of nightclubs, and we must ensure under-alcoholic drinks at control, Madam Speaker. There is a club in Eldoret that shares with the school only 100 meters, Madam Speaker. We want to be told, Madam Speaker, yes, and it looks like Senator Metu has been a patron in that club, Madam Speaker. That club is only 100 meters to 50 meters from the school. I want to challenge the county commissioner of Wasingishu County and tell, unless he has been compromised, Dr. Edison Nyale, why would he allow a club to operate next to Nova School, Madam Speaker? We must be told which law are we applying. Why is it in other areas the clubs are far from the school? But why is this special about this club, Madam Speaker, that is nearer to the school? Say that even they can argue that they are put soundproof, Madam Speaker. Even when you go to churches here in Nairobi and clubs, they can argue they are put soundproof, Madam Speaker. I want to ask the Wasingishu County Security Team, don't apply the law selectively. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, in the story of Shamba la Wanyama, we cannot use the principle that other animals are more equal than others. We are all equal before the law, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I challenge the DCC in charge of that area where Nova School is reside. I challenge the Wasingishu County Security Team led by the County Commissioner and the County Commander to follow the law. If we allow, Madam Speaker, those issues to function, we are breeding impunity in this country, Madam Speaker. We will not allow, Madam Speaker. That is why I'm challenging, let us, by the end of next week, that club should be closed, Madam Speaker. We cannot be applying double standards in this country. If we cannot follow the law, why would you close Quiver, for example? Why would you close the one near schools or near Parliament? Let's everybody operate without following the law, Madam Speaker. And I think it is very important that even as noise pollution is being followed, Madam Speaker, we must follow it to ensure that we go into the future, Madam Speaker. With those very many remarks, I submit, Madam Speaker, and support all the statements, including the statement on lands. Although the chairperson, I know he's still on a borrowed time, Madam Speaker, that he is yet to invite me on the status of construction dams, Madam. I think Majority Leader, you should guide your member chair.
Can you raise a point of order when he's giving his comments? What are you clarifying, Senator Metu?
Honorable Speaker, I have a lot of respect to the Senator for Nandi. And in 1969, there was a very distinguished legislator called Tom Boyer, and he met Kenyatta operatives, and he was told that he was living on borrowed time. And he didn't live long. So I wanted a clarification on what exactly the Senator for Nandi means when he says that I'm living on borrowed time.
Senator Charadige, where is the time being borrowed from?
Madam Speaker, I meant he is living on borrowed time because my statement has taken over here. So that is what I meant, Madam Speaker. I didn't mean any other. And Senator Metu should relax because he's sitting to the Majority Leader, next to the Majority Leader, the deep state. So, Madam Speaker, so you should worry less. I meant that, and I think it is good that Majority Leader is in the House, that some statements have taken more than 2 years until it has been overtaken by amendments. I think the Majority Leader should call through liaison some members to order. But the guilty are always afraid. I don't know, but the Bible, Madam Speaker, talks about the guilty are always afraid. But Senator Metu is a fine young man. But one of these fine days, Madam Speaker, we might need to call for an Arambe. We buy him grooming equipments like Kuchanua so that he can improve. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the statement.
No, you have gone beyond the topic and beyond the comment of clarification. Senator Tom Ojenda.
Yes, Madam Speaker, my contribution was to second or to ride on the statement by Senator Lelmatian on, Madam Speaker, the transport question that my colleague, Senator Fernandi, has ably dealt with. Madam Speaker, it is important that Madam Speaker, that the Chair of Transport, I think the Chair of Transport is Senator Thangwa, is able to deal with the question of transportation. And it is true, Madam Speaker, that the road network in the sugar belt, in the sugar growing areas, is pathetic. It is pathetic, Madam Speaker, to the extent that farmers are not able to get value for money for the product that they deliver because of tractors breaking down every so often, because of the difficulty in transporting produce, in this case sugarcane and other crops. And Madam Speaker, we know that the road network goes into inputs, because if you have poor road network, you spend more on transport than you should, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, further, the statement, Madam Speaker, is important because it goes to the question. It does not limit itself just to one county, Madam Speaker. It is a problem that all counties experience. And Madam Speaker, this evening, I will urge the Chair of Transport to ensure that there is an engagement with the CS Ministry of Roads, who was here last week, and with whom we engage. And the new CS of Transport, Madam Speaker, the CS Chirchir, undertook to engage on outstanding projects, including, Madam Speaker, and this we talked about last time, Madam Speaker, the road network in Moroni, the one connecting Moroni and Kisumu. That road is 30% complete. And there was a question of allocation of funds, Madam Speaker, and we've spoken to the allocation. And it is important, Madam Speaker, that overall, the assessment in the road network takes into account the roads that were spoiled due to the El Nino rains and that so far have not been brought to the level that they should be, and also bridges that were broken because of the heavy rains during the April cycle. And Madam Speaker, this afternoon, I think it is important for Senate to ensure that we process all the outstanding questions on roads and on the bad road network in most of the counties, Madam Speaker. I support.
Senator Ledama Olekina, few minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the statement by Senator Hamida on the issue of on the rise of entertainment joints and nightclubs in residential areas within Nairobi City. Madam Speaker, this is a menace, and I think we really ought to support the governor of Nairobi in trying to control. This, Madam Speaker, if you look at it, is a statement that has been brought to the Security Committee. And while I stand here, Madam Speaker, this problem is not only in Nairobi. This problem is countrywide. And with this problem being countrywide, today I want to speak about what is happening in Narok County. Madam Speaker, because of all these nightclubs, night joints closer to residential areas, from January of this year, we have lost 22 people in Narok County who are being butchered at night. In fact, yesterday I called the IG and I requested him to be able to take measures to try and see how we can be able to control this thing. When I was traveling out of the country, I was called and I was told that one of my friend, who was also seeking the voters to support him to come to this house, His name is Ololdapash. His son was killed at night, you know? And in fact, those people who killed him in Narok town butchered him, removed, I don't know whether they mutilated his body. And it's just because of this issue of allowing these entrepreneurs to be all over. I think it's about time that we now zone our county headquarters. Nairobi County has got to be zoned. We don't have to have clubs everywhere. We can actually have a beer street for those people who like drinking. You know, if you go to Nairobi West, there's a whole street which is a beer street. Why don't we just put everything there? You know, even yesterday I had the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Senator Adwale, talking about the noise. It's not only about the noise, but people are taking advantage. It is very difficult now to be able to survive in this country because of how expensive things are. So, Madam Speaker, I want to request that when the Security Committee will be dealing with this statement by Senator Hamida, I would like them to also deal with the menace in Narok County. We cannot lose 22 young men. You know, they are butchered at night. The security operators are there. This matter is reported to the security and nothing is being done. You know, I'm grateful that yesterday when I spoke to the IG, he promised that he's going to take measures to ensure that he either changes the entire security people in Narok town or at least get to the end of this. So this statement is very important. We need to zone our cities, you know. In fact, because clubs are normally associated to sinners and all that crazy stuff, we should actually just excise out a section in the city and zone it and call it Sinners Club or Sinners Area, so that we can go and do everything there. If you go and kill yourself there, shauri yenyu. But in residential, it is something that really hurts me. So, Madam Speaker, I support this statement, and I hope that the IG and the Security Committee of this House will take action. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Ledama. We now reorganize the order paper and direct that order number 19, 20, 21, 22 be deferred. Oh, okay. We reorganize the order paper to defer order number 12, 13, 14, and 15. And that means we have not deferred the other orders that I have read earlier, but instead have deferred order number 12, 13, 14, and 15, partly because 16 and 17, partly because the chairpersons of the respective committees are not here, and partly because of quorum matters. I will now request the clerk to call out order number 20. Next order.
Order number 20, the Political Parties Amendment number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 26 of 2024, second reading.
Majority Leader, you may proceed. Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just 1 second. I beg to move that the Political Parties Amendment Bill, Bill number 2 of 2024, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, the Political Parties Amendment Bill, Bill number actually 26, sorry, I had mentioned earlier, it's Bill number 2. It's actually the second one of there are quite a number of political parties amendment bill. There's 1 and 2. But in terms of its sequencing in Senate, it is Bill number 26 rather, of 2024. This bill was published in the Kenya Gazette Supplement number 96 of 2024, dated 7th of May 2024. The principal object of this bill, Madam Speaker, is to amend the Political Parties Act of 2022 2011 and replace the office of the Registrar of Political Parties with the Independent Political Parties Regulatory Commission. This bill also seeks to delete any reference to the coalition of political party or a coalition political party in the Act. This bill seeks to give effect to some of the recommendations and views of the public that were submitted during the NADCO process. This is one of the famous NADCO bills, Madam Speaker, where everybody knows the history of how we got to the NADCO process. And we have many bills, Madam Speaker. We have since passed the IBC bill, and this is one of the three that are remaining before the Senate, including now, later on, a constitutional amendment bill that is before Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which you are a member. Like I have pointed out, Madam Speaker, this bill seeks to replace the office of the Registrar of Political Parties with an independent commission of Registrar of Political Parties. You do know, Madam Speaker, very well that there has been contention about how independent the office of the Registrar of Political Parties is. And for somebody like you, who has served on 2 occasions as a feat that is not known to any other Kenyan, the only Secretary General who has delivered 2 ruling parties in subsequent elections is none other than yours truly. That's serious decoration in terms of political contribution to the country. I know in 2017, you are Secretary General of JAP, which morphed into the Jubilee Coalition, and the last general election, Madam Speaker, you served as the Secretary General of the ruling party, United Democratic Alliance. And anybody that has been within the circles of political parties know how crucial this office is. Sometimes the difference between keeping an official, losing an office, losing a party, and not losing it depends on the decisions that are made there at the political parties. A very powerful office, especially when you're getting near to elections time, Madam Speaker. Yet, the stakeholders that appeared before us in the NADCO process spoke to us and actually felt that this office has not been granted the stature of importance of the work that it does. And therefore, they felt that there was need to remodify this office from being just an office created under the IBC, actually, to an independent entity that has independent commissioners who, by statute, are appointed into office through a political process that is competitive and end up serving the interest of all political parties equally, Madam Speaker. You know, one of the biggest struggles that this country continues to have to date, Madam Speaker, are independent institutions. Institutions that can withstand even the men that are in power. And I use the title men intentionally, because rarely is it women that abuse power. Most of the time it is the male folk that do that, Madam Speaker. We need credible institutions that can rule even against presidents, vice presidents, senators, members of parliament, MCAs, senior civil servants in a dispute and grant orders of favorable judgment or favorable hearing in a pleading against the ordinary citizens. That is a hallmark of a great country, Madam Speaker, where all are equal before the law. And this is one such attempt, because listening to the members of the public as they appeared before us, there was a yearning and a desire that we need to reform this office so that when they make certain decisions, it doesn't appear as if they are hands that are pulling the registrar like a marionette and forcing them to make decisions this way or the other. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I'll go to the specifics of the bill. Clause 1 basically is the short title of the bill. Clause 2 provides for the definition of the commission. I have laid basis for this commission, Madam Speaker. Clause 3 provides for the deletion of reference to the registrar. Remember, we are replacing a simple office of a registrar with an independent institution, Madam Speaker. Clause 4 provides for the principal act by repealing Section 14 of the Political Parties Act of 2011. And Clause 5 establish the responsibilities of IPPRC, the Independent Political Parties Regulatory Commission, which include, number 1, to register political parties and the office holder. B, the management of political parties fund established under this act, ensuring that publication of audited annual accounts of political parties. Madam Speaker, party members deserve to know how much was raised in our political parties, contribution from members, deduction from elected officials, donations, Madam Speaker, and monies that have been sent from the political parties fund, Madam Speaker. If we want to build strong political parties in this country, Madam Speaker, then them being transparent in their financial transaction is part of what this office needs to encourage them to do. I know it's done, Madam Speaker, but with better detail is what this law is calling for. There's also the duty to maintain a register of political parties and the symbol of political parties, basically responsibilities, you know, that are present in law and done by the political parties. The bill, Madam Speaker, has clause 8, which provides for the saving provisions indicating that a person who immediately before the commencement of this act was a member of the staff of office of registrar shall be deemed to be a member of staff to the commission and shall continue to serve under the same terms and conditions. You know, Madam Speaker, many times when you do legislation, SHIF is one such example. Part of the hurdles that we continue to face is that people imagine that once you replace, then they lose their job and you create. We have work at the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. We'll move to this institution on same terms, Madam Speaker. I'll say something later about a conversation and further proposals that I have since received, including from the present registrar, on how this institution can be bettered, Madam Speaker. And it's something for engagement, which at the committee of the whole stage, once we have listened and have been informed by debate from members, Madam Speaker, we shall be making the final determination. Remember, and this is something that I mentioned earlier, this is a bipartisan bill, Madam Speaker, which you have to carry the views of everybody with you. So clause 8 is a saving clause of staffers of this office. The bill further states that the regulatory commission in performance of its function shall be independent office and not be under the direction and control of any person or authority. Just by law, it's in practice, but Kenyans are Kenyans, Madam Speaker. They believe that the big man in office, one such example is, if you read Article 249 of our Constitution, Madam Speaker, it speaks of the police. Let me just cite it as an example. That the Inspector General of Police shall exercise independent command of the police service. But I see many times, including even honorable members, including the so-called learned fellows, speak to the microphone and demand for answers from the executive led by the president on actions by the Inspector General of Police, this or the other way. This concept of independence of office is still alien to our minds, and many people believe that any action that is taken, Madam Speaker, until we begin to accept and believe that it is possible to have independent offices that can rule even against government, you know, and say this request by the executive is turned down because of ABCD, for people to believe that that is possible. Additionally, Madam Speaker, this bill states that the regulatory commission shall have 5 commissioners appointed by the president with the approval of the National Assembly. I have told,
who is playing that video, or what is it that is playing?
I don't know. Maybe something. Madam Speaker, additionally, the bill states that that commission shall be approved by the National Assembly. I have said times without number that for any laws that we pass this House, when the committee gets to a clause that proposes such, it is good of them to recognize that we have an institution called Parliament that has 2 houses. So it is them to amend accordingly. I expect that later on, JLAC will do justice as they lead us towards amending. Because political parties is a political process. Why do you want it to be approved by only one house? You need to approve the same by both houses, Madam Speaker. I know it's my bill, supposedly, quote unquote, but that is an amendment that must be moved, and we must state the same. So this is an important bill, Madam Speaker. Like I have said, I have listened to submissions later, even after the publication of this bill, from many concerned players, including comparable jurisdictions. There are jurisdictions that have gone this way of establishing an independent registrar of political parties and the challenges that arose. I have listened even including to the present registrar, and I know there's a memorandum that they have sent to this House, Madam Speaker. We need to listen to them as the users of this law. They have prepared some good proposals of how this can be made better. It's only that I have noted and I have stated, Madam Speaker, that this was a bipartisan bill, and therefore even in seeking amendments, the same has to be considered. But this is good progress, Madam Speaker, which I hope we can conclude on, and this can become law, Madam Speaker, so that we have better sanity in our political parties. You know, there are too many political parties, Madam Speaker. That's why I have a problem even with the present registrar as things are. Yet even on account of one clause, just one clause of what a political party is, it fails 99% of many of these so-called briefcase political parties, Madam Speaker. Even just alone the requirement to have an office in at least more than half of the counties, which is 24. How many political parties have more than 24 offices across our counties in this country? And so many others, Madam Speaker, so that we stop this business of people having briefcase political parties that are transactional only during election time, Madam Speaker. We must build a strong culture. In established democracies, Madam Speaker, there are no more than 2 political formations. If you see older democracies, but if you move maybe to Europe, they have even gone further and are moving towards political coalitions, Madam Speaker. And I must happily note, Madam Speaker, that part of what you are doing also here is a deletion of that very non-conventional creation by statute that passed here in very difficult times towards the 2022 general election. Something called a coalition political party, which members hurriedly passed. Then within months or a few weeks later, they all gathered at KICC and realized that it was not possible to have candidates run on something called, for example, Azimio Coalition Party, and have since realized how impractical that is. And we are seeking actually the deletion of the existence of a coalition political party as described in that particular law. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I was speaking to the need to provide sanity in our political parties, Madam Speaker, so that you have functional political parties that do election regularly, have elected officials, transcend beyond one party leader to the next, and people take ownership of that particular party. The proper beginning, Madam Speaker, is to have an independent political party so that people can argue on ideals, on things that they believe. I must also appreciate, Madam Speaker, I saw I think yesterday or the day before, that the young people that have been on the street calling for more accountability have since registered a political party. That's a welcome move, Madam Speaker. It is better than tweeting insults and the kind of things that I see some of them do, Madam Speaker, because we have a constitution. At the end of the day, you may not like Professor Tom Ojienda, but for now, between now and 2027, he remains to be the Senator of Kisumu. If you don't agree with his ideals and what he professes in his political practice, Madam Speaker, the proper thing to do is either join a political party or run independently, Madam Speaker, and come and do a better job. That's the essence of democracy, Madam Speaker. I don't see why people want to create enmity out of political processes, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it is important that we have an office that will expand our democratic space by ensuring that we have sanity in our political parties, Madam Speaker, and our political parties have a fair, competing environment, Madam Speaker. With those very many remarks, I beg to move and request the Senator for Kisumu, Professor Tom Ojienda, to second this bill. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Aaron. Senator Tom, Professor Tom Ojienda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill on the bill amending the Political Parties Amendments Bill number 2, 2024, could not have come at a better time. It could not have come at a better time, Madam Speaker, because it seeks to democratize the political space by introducing an independent commission to replace the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Madam Speaker, from the onset, it is clear that an independent commission would fall within the rubric of commissions regulated under Article 251, and therefore would be independent not only in execution of duty, but in ensuring that the oversighting of political parties and the framework of political parties is governed by the 5 individuals who shall be appointed in accordance with the proposals under the new Section 33B, uppercase B of the amendments. Section 33 uppercase B, as intended, mandates the appointment of a commission of 5 appointed by the President after nomination by the National Assembly, Madam Speaker, consisting of 2 men, gender equality, man and woman, nominated by the majority party, and another 2, man and a woman, nominated by the minority party. The last member in the commission of 5 is nominated by the Public Service Commission. Madam Speaker, this is a move in the right direction. The commission will operate in a manner not only independent, but to reflect the principles of democracy, where it shall no longer be, Madam Speaker, business as usual for one single hand, the registrar, to make decisions on the composition and registration of political parties. Madam Speaker, when the Azimio coalition was born, and I'm glad that when moving this motion, this bill, the Senate Majority Leader spoke of briefcase political parties. Of concern, Madam Speaker, is that there were about 26 political parties forming the Azimio coalition. And of those 26 political parties, the only real political parties were about 10, with other parties being briefcase parties, members or owners of those parties carrying briefcases with all the documents and disappearing into thin air after the signing of the coalition agreement. Madam Speaker, these amendments will surely lead to a proper framework that mirrors what we have in the US, where we have the blues and the reds, where we have a convergence of strong political parties going forward, parties that are well regulated, that will benefit from the political parties fund established under Section 23, and that will truly be a mirror of the country and reflect political ideology and shades of political creativity. I say it will, Madam Speaker, have what we call political horticulture, where you will have shades of opinion of different leaders, Madam Speaker. And we need, for this country, Madam Speaker, to move to the next level, we want to see strong political parties, not parties registered by night and dead by day. We want to see some longevity in the life of political parties. Madam Speaker, this is what this act intends to achieve. Madam Speaker, let me just mention this, that this is one of the bills that arise out of the national dialogue discourse. And this was therefore a bipartisan proposal, both by the minority and the majority side, in a framework, Madam Speaker, that was brought into life after the earlier maandamano that we had. And the government, or in this case, both the majority and minority, are acting in respect of the views of the people who presented their views during the national dialogue discourse on issues of electoral justice and related matters. Madam Speaker, this bill would not have come at a better time. At a time, Madam Speaker, when we have had some form of restructuring in governance, where we have moved, Madam Speaker, from the shareholding narrative to a broad-based narrative where we have every Kenyan as a shareholder in government. And Madam Speaker, it is therefore important that we move to the next level of ensuring that the next election in 2027 shall be fought on the basis of credible political parties and on the basis of performance by leaders whom we have elected, not on the basis of other irrelevant matters, Madam Speaker. And that is why I strongly support the adoption of this bill. This bill, Madam Speaker, is reflective of the intentions of the people of this country. Public participation shall be undertaken for this bill, but the public participation, Madam Speaker, shall go to the question of dealing with the age-old problem, Madam Speaker, of one individual, the registrar, controlling political parties, to a level where we have 5 commissioners, we have an independent commission, we have a framework that disperses political power to different individuals for control, so that in 2027 we do not have questions that bedeviled us in 2022, Madam Speaker, and after the election, so that we settle to a true democracy after the 2027 elections. I support. I second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Professor Tom Ojenda. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Political Parties Amendment Bill number 2, Senate Bills number 26 of 2024, be now read a second time. This bill is now open for debate, and I want to invite Senator Cherarike Samson Kiprotich to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In fact, I would have expected you to be among the top contributors. You having history of running the defunct and moribund, our former beloved party Jubilee, and also you are the midwife of United Democratic Alliance Party as the SG of the party. I hope you will get time to contribute. And I'm happy the deputy party leader of ODM, my brother and neighbor, Senator Godfrey, and former Secretary General of one of the coalition of Kenya Kwanza, African Amani National Congress. It would be better, I hope we will learn from you, because you will be debating on something, Madam Speaker, that you have already gone through, and you know the challenges that political parties are. Madam Speaker, we need strong political parties, we need strong government, we need the rule of democracy, the beauty of democracy, as my law lecturer, Professor Tom Ojenda, and my neighbor has indicated, that we need a political horticulture. That's hiyo ni Kiingereza kubwa kabisa, Madam Speaker. So the political horticulture in this country, Madam Speaker. I've seen people growing excitement. I was told there is a party called Inject that had been registered by some young people, and people continue. That's the freedom we want. We want that independence, Madam Speaker, so that as we grow with political parties that we have. Madam Speaker, I'm making this with cognizant fact that Nandi County at the moment, we are facing labor crisis. As we talk, our hospitals and health centers, there is industrial action on a strike by health workers in Nandi. It is a sad situation, and I want to appeal to your office that the Health Committee of Senate, led by Senator Jackson Mandago, to intervene, because we are having serious crisis in terms of health care provision, Madam Speaker. And we have said, and I've said before, that the issue of health is big concern. So I thought I should mention, Madam Speaker, because people even from Nandi are following discourse of political parties, but I thought it is important that I mention, Madam Speaker, and I'm reliably informed, Madam Speaker, that EACC have already done a raid in Kapsabet County offices, and we hope with the investigation that is ongoing, we shall be able to be told who bears the great responsibility of corruption allegations that we are facing. Madam Speaker, even going into the future, we have agreed with the people of Nandi, And we have directed our MCAs, Madam Speaker, to commence impeachment proceedings against the sitting governor going into the future. Madam Speaker, let me mention a few things. One is that at 2022, we had 90 political parties. 90 political parties, and others are more briefcase political parties, Madam Speaker. I think it is a high time as a country we embrace party democracy. I might agree, many people, the presence of 90 political parties plus, because people continue to register, even as at now, Madam Speaker, that one does not mean that we are democratic. It means we have reduced ourselves to religion, region, tribal, among other factors, even class, Madam Speaker. Therefore, by 2022, more than 90 political parties have been registered by Office of Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Speaker. When you look at this amendment bill, where we want to establish Independent Political Parties Regulatory Commission to replace the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Speaker. For us, I expected all of us to say something on this, because we are the consumers of this office. I think over 99%, Madam Speaker, of members of parliament who are sitting here are either sponsored by any political party or any political formation, except a few who are elected through independent tickets as prescribed by the law, Madam Speaker. Therefore, Madam Speaker, as even we talk today, as we are in the House, we are the greatest consumers of political parties. We must ensure there is hygiene in terms of running of political parties, Madam Speaker, in this country. Under Article 91 and 92 of the Constitution of Kenya, the characteristics and design of political parties in this republic, Madam Speaker, should and must reflect the national outlook. Because one of the characteristics of political parties, it must reflect what we call national unity. That is the essence of any political parties. I don't know what we will do to ensure. I can tell you out of 90 political parties plus as of 2022, Madam Speaker, that are registered by political parties, a few have over 25. Within 25 counties have an office, Madam Speaker. If you look at those offices nowadays, they have changed even color. Because we have used political parties as a vehicle. You reach your destination, you abandon, Madam Speaker. Yet in the wisdom and designers of this Constitution, we had even allocated political parties fund to assist political parties to run. By creating an independent office, we shall be able to ask ourselves, now that political parties were funded, and rightfully so, within the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, Madam Speaker, what is the essence of giving political parties? Like now, there is hot, as we head to political parties, as we head to elections in the United States of America. We are having Donald Trump of the Republican Party, Madam Speaker, and of course Kamala Harris of the Democratic Party, and there are many other small parties like Tea Party, among others, Madam Speaker. That is now when you go there, when they call for NDC, National Delegates Conference, you are wondering how those people are well organized. And there are two political parties with different ideologies that must be respected. Madam Speaker, and as we approach to November, some of us are great supporters of Donald Trump, and we hope he wins, Madam Speaker, because the economy will look much better as opposed to other ideologies, Madam Speaker. I know as a speaker and as a former SG, you want women empowerment, Madam Speaker. You go to China, the Communist Party. It is operated like a military style, with military precision and concision, Madam, with an eye of military marksman. You go here to Chama cha Mapinduzi, the organizational structure of CCM Chama cha Mapinduzi, led by our beloved sister, the President of Republic of Tanzania United, Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan. The way they are organized from the grassroots, from the village to the national level is so meticulous that we as a country, we must build political parties on ideology. But also we should avoid political party tyranny, Madam Speaker. And that is why some parties, they cannibalize others, Madam Speaker. I saw was it Tundu Lucy or what, Tundu Lisa. Madam Speaker, they are plantooning him. I saw allegations where somebody, a party official, was removed by a moving pass, and those people decided to cannibalize, Madam Speaker, that party official. We also, as we preach for political ideology, we should not allow also political parties tyranny. So that even if you are the massive political party, you don't need to swallow or cannibalize other political parties. So we hope in this country, we will build a party like communist like Republican Party, like Democrat Party, Madam Speaker, like Chama cha Mapinduzi Party, and even our brother and our elder statesman of NRM, National Resistance Movement, NRM, by the Museveni, the president of the Uganda. We have seen also the Bobby Wine one, the National Unity Party platform. You go to South Africa, we have ANC. Also ANC is losing makucha. What do you say makucha in English? Is losing some nails. We saw Mkonto and Zizwe by the former president, President Jacob Zuma. And even our brother who was fiery the other day when he came, he didn't have numbers. Kumbe he had phone numbers, the one Julius Malema, Madam Speaker, when he came to the East Republic. So we want to see the vibrancy, the ideology. When you walk to ANC, you know what the ideology is. They are the people who liberated South Africa from the white minority rule. When you talk to the one for Julius Malema, EFF, Economic Freedom Front Party, they are pushing for an agenda of nationalization and for the fairness of the majority of the black man. When you go to the DA, Democratic Alliance Party by Stephen Eisen, they have an ideology that that they are pursuing, Madam Speaker. Even the Mkonto one Sinswe that is being read UMK by Jacob Zuma, the former president of the Republic of South Africa. So that is the essence that we want to see, Madam Speaker, that we can identify with. So this office will ensure there is neatness, there is hygiene, by ensuring that the registration of political parties, the management of political parties fund. We really want to know, Madam Speaker, you know, no one has ever disclosed. We contribute. You and me contribute to our United Democratic Alliance Party. ODM, through the deputy party leader, is aware we contribute monthly subscription. The MCS contribute, the president, the deputy president. I don't know whether Raila Odinga is contributing, he's not elected nor is not serving. I don't know. Maybe when deputy party leader will tell us whether he's contributing. Either or Madam Speaker, or through wisdom.
Senator Cherargei, Senator Osotsi would like to inform you. Senator Osotsi.
I want to inform my good friend, neighbor, Senator Cherargei, that the contribution of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, is immeasurable in financial term, in all manner of contribution, cannot be quantified. It's beyond quantification.
Senator Osotsi, while I do not want to wade into the debate, I am sure Senator Cherargei was talking about the quantifiable contribution. Correct. But I will let it rest. He appears happy with your clarification, point of information.
No, Madam Speaker, you have to appreciate Senator Osotsi also needs to be careful with this wording now that is deputy party leader. Madam Speaker, and I agree with him, but it's as much, I was talking about quantify, like me, monthly, you and me pay 50,000 to United Democratic Alliance. There maybe MCS pay 20,000, others pay 10,000. That's what I meant. That is what we need, that accountability. And Madam Speaker, I think the accountability of political parties is very critical. You have been a Secretary General of a political party, the ruling party. You sign checks, you run the accounting of, we need in future. I don't know whether CPIC or which accounts committee. Some of the Secretary General of parties must appear before Parliament and tell us the money we contribute through subscription. What are they using for? Madam Speaker, what are they using for? But Madam Speaker, I hope Senator Osotsi is taking this note seriously because we are using public funds. Members contribute. You are also given money by the exchequer. So you need to tell us how are you using that money in terms of, and I hope, Madam Speaker, you get back as the SG of UDA because, Madam Speaker, I've seen some people don't understand of being a Secretary General of a ruling party. I know as a level-headed person, as a sober leader, you need to get back to be the SG to fix a few things here and there. And that is the point. And I'm happy you are excited about it. And God willing, you need to be in that position again, Madam Speaker. So we need accountability. We need the financial statements from this office to be tabled in Parliament, to tell us this exchequer money, this member subscription. We need transparency and accountability from political parties so that we kill the briefcase parties, so that we don't suffocate political parties who want to grow and expand in our country, Madam Speaker. We must agree that we need, so that we don't reduce. You know, Madam Speaker, some of us who have run in a number of elections through my law lecturer, Professor Tom Agenda, because this was his maiden stab in politics, some of us ni chuma ya kitambo kidogo. You can see the frustration of the members, Madam Speaker. As you go to a general election, you see people running with any political party. And that is why you see political merchants running around in Parliament and saying, if you don't get this ticket, others are being given through a bedroom, Madam Speaker. Others are given on the streets, Madam Speaker. Others even nominations, Madam Speaker. So we need to create a cleanup in terms of management, Madam Speaker. There is also, I agree, public audited verification, available list of all members of political parties. You remember, Madam Speaker, the chaos we had. And thank you for assisting us in the last, when we were migrating en masse, like the wild beasts that we are crossing from Tanzania to Kenya. And you had the former president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, saying that the wild beasts from Kenya go to Uganda to get pregnant and come back, Madam Speaker. The way we were migrating, Madam Speaker, you assisted us. We had to sign a lot of letters. We went to the office of the Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Anne Deretu. We deposited. We were now moving from Jubilee to UDA, Madam Speaker. We need a seamless movement. Madam Speaker, and I'm proposing in management of political parties, when you go to the website of this regulation that we are amending, Madam Speaker, of creating the commission of political parties, I can be able to tell political parties members, like you and me of UDA, we need to go to website and know the number of members that are in UDA, which accounts for transparency and accountability. Madam Speaker, even the issue of, we wanted to prevent party hopping, but we never succeeded. You remember now there is people losing a nomination of a political party, they party hop to a political party. That party hopping is common, Madam Speaker. And we must, as a country, decide on what we'll do with political party hopping, so that we guard the reason why you are in UDA, why you are in ODM, why in your Maendeleo Chap, why are you in ANC, why are you in Inject, Madam Speaker. So at the end of the day, you must have ideological principle that you follow, and that is point H, Madam Speaker. Even the names, the simple, Madam Speaker, those are issues that you understand. You are a senior lawyer in this republic. The only number 4, Madam Speaker, is as clause number 33B. I will propose that we amend this section. There, they says the commission shall comprise the 5 commissioners appointed by the president with the approval of the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, why are we legislating ourselves out of business? Why are we legislating ourselves out of business? What is this? What is happening? Under Article 93, Madam Speaker, Parliament is both Senate and National Assembly. Madam Speaker, we must amend. Political parties is the business of politicians, and we are in Parliament. You cannot tell me the commissioners who will serve. The National Assembly can go and approve and leave Senate out. Yet we are political animals. Sorry to use that word strictly in its sense. We also be in political parties. Why would we legislate ourselves? Why would we give somebody a different mandate, Madam Speaker? Therefore, I'm proposing that clause number 33B be amended to ensure. On the composition, I don't have a problem. I'm happy. They have said 6 years, Madam Speaker. Therefore, it will allow staggering going into the future, Madam Speaker. And then with the Public Service Commission and SRC, I think I agree with Parliamentary Service, Public Service Commission. Sorry, it's not Parliamentary Service, Madam Speaker. So that we continue. Madam Speaker, the reading of Article 91, we must agree that we need parties that reflect the face of Kenya. We should kill the tribal political parties, kill regional political parties, Madam Speaker, so that we follow the basic requirements. Madam Speaker, we are one nation, one people, under God, Madam Speaker. You can see, and we need, Madam Speaker, I wanted to make a very critical point. The Constitution recognizes the role of marginalized and minorities. I'm yet to see a political party that has in its senior position a minority or a majority, Madam Speaker, as in leadership of political parties. Yet our constitution had a future. I want to see one day a political party leader of ODM to be Apokomo. I am one day to be happy to see UDA political party leader to be a Turkana, Madam Speaker. So that we don't bring this tribal dominance and tyranny of the big tribes, the big five. I can equate it to the wildlife, Madam Speaker. Let us ensure that we inculcate the minority and majority, and even the Gen Z, the youth, the women. I'm happy by the, Madam Speaker, have you noticed in this country, and I saw my sister, the minority leader, Emilio Diambo, launching her book the other day, and a number of you women leaders. The only thing about gender, Madam Speaker, I have seen, and I don't know whether it is good for the country, that the issue of any representation, both appointive and elective, they are discussing about women only. I have not heard somebody talking about the youth. Some of us who are young people, we had to fight through to be where we are today. We need support system, our young people. People living with disability, we need them on the table, Madam Speaker. People, women, I'm happy women are receiving a lot of attention, but where will youth go? I'm happy youth, out of their own energy and zeal, they have come up strongly. What about the people living with disability? What will we do them? What about the minorities, the ingems, the marginalized, Madam Speaker? We must, as a political parties, be deliberate. And that is why even we had proposed, even in there was a proposal that one side, Madam Speaker, we ring fence or we create protected constituencies for only women so that we give them chances of winning seats. While I agree that could work, but how long will it work? Like the women representative seat, Madam Speaker, as a sunset clause. You and me know that. But what we did do to ensure more women are in leadership and elective and appointive, Madam Speaker, even in cabinet, even in presidency, Madam Speaker, even in Senate, Madam Speaker, we are happy that even going into the future, we must have either a speaker or a deputy speaker who is a woman, Madam Speaker, of substance to sit on the seat, because we don't see you through the lenses of gender. So I'm happy, but I want to ask women leaders the way they were championing for women. There are many minorities, marginalized youth, and PWDs in future, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the legislation of political parties, I agree that there should be regulation, there should be functions, there should be supervision, Madam Speaker, and management of political parties, accounting restriction. Madam Speaker, I think finally I'll conclude this. If you can just, I can say I still have a few minutes. On use of public resources. I know, Madam Speaker, there are many by-elections coming up, and I hope, and I want to ask colleagues, some of us are political party leaders here, to fast-track the issue of appointment of substantive IEBC commissioners, so that places like Banisa, Madam Speaker, other places like wards that we don't have MCAs, can have opportunity to elect MCAs and members of parliament, Madam Speaker. I appeal that as a nation, it is the right time to put IEBC in place so that by-elections can happen. But I want to also appeal, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, that we also become hard against using of public resources, both at the county and at national level, so that we protect the integrity of our offices, Madam Speaker. So that when we are elected, we are not elected to represent the interests of individuals or organizations or entities. Madam Speaker, you are aware in some countries, corporations are so powerful that they even sponsor, can I just 30 seconds, Madam Speaker?
It's 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. 30 seconds, some corporations even sponsor candidates because of their own interest. Even in counties, there are business people who sponsor. So how do we protect public resources that shall be ensured that we don't abuse? It is through establishment and replacement by having a commission that will ensure political parties are managed within the Republic of Kenya. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, and your indulgence, I beg to support this amendment that of the political parties amendment number 2, Bill 2024, with amendments specifically to clause 33B, Madam Speaker, and I thank you, and I hope to see you becoming the SG of our party, because we need you there so that some things can start working. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Cherarige, and always for the support.
Yes.
Senator Osotsi Godfrey Atieno.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. and all the members who have contributed to this very important bill. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, this bill is one of the bills that emanated from the NADICO report that was a product of bipartisan negotiation between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. This is the right step, Madam Speaker, and I hope all the other bills which are pending before this House are also fast-tracked so that, Madam Speaker, we avoid the mischief that is beginning to show itself out, where people are now coming up with amendments, even to the Constitution, proposed amendment to the Constitution, on matters which are already included in the NADICO report. I know Senator Gerard Gay has just left the chamber, but I want to tell him that the proposed amendments he's bringing to the Constitution are some of the issues have been processed in the NADICO report. And I think it's important for him to consult more and wait for the full implementation of the NADICO report, rather than jumping the gun, as we have seen in his amendments. Madam Speaker, this bill, the political parties bill, amendment bill number 2 of 2024, seeks to do one thing: to entrench the Independent Political Party Regulatory Commission in the Political Parties Act. I find this to be very progressive, Madam Speaker, because the current arrangement where we have the registrar of political parties, where we have a registrar who is there, who is supposed to make decisions, but most of the time, Madam Speaker, the registrar is not independent at all. She is not independent at all. And I want to say this without fear of any contradiction, that I have been a victim of that office. Madam Speaker, you know, you have been the SG of Jubilee, that the decisions that are made by that registrar of political parties are politically motivated. We cannot have a scenario where we have one individual who is there as a registrar, but that individual in most cases does not follow the law. He follows the political dictates of the day and also the directions is given. Madam Speaker, in the last parliament, I served as a nominated member of parliament and the SG of ANC party. But when I started having trouble with the ANC party for my stand on issues, I was taken through a very rigorous, very sad, very straining process of having to go to the court 7 times. 7 times, largely because the registrar of political parties was not following the law. He was following the political direction he was given. But luckily, Madam Speaker, in all those 7 cases, I won. And I'm happy now, because of my need to survive then, I have now been cited as a very important jurisprudence on matters of political parties in this country. And even Professor Ujenda is a beneficiary of that, and many others. So that it is good that we are now having a commission of 5 people. So it is not going to be a decision of one woman or one man making a decision on who to expel, which party to register, or what form of punishment to give to a member. It is now going to be a panel of 5 people, and that panel is going to compose of 2 members from the ruling party, the majority party, and 2 members from the minority party, or the opposition party, in other words, and 1 member from the, what we call the non-parliamentary parties, in other words, those small political parties. So this is progressive. And I think a lot of things which have been going wrong, Madam Speaker, are going to be sorted out through these very, very important amendments. Madam Speaker, my colleagues have talked about political parties. Registration of political parties is going to be one of the functions of this commission. And Madam Speaker, I am talking as a proud deputy party leader of ODM. That last week I saw a report that was saying that the only political party that is fully compliant to the Political Parties Act is the Orange Democratic Movement. The other parties, including the party where Cheregei belongs to, they are all non-compliant. And if registrar of political parties was serious, those are parties that should be registered so that we only remain with one political party in this country, called the Orange Democratic Party. And I want to, he was talking about foreign names like CCM, ANC of South Africa, but in Kenya here, I want to tell you that if there is a party that has elaborate structures that other parties can copy from, is the Orange Democratic Movement. You go to every village, we have a committee of ODM. Even in the most politically hostile areas, you will find someone wearing an orange cap and saying, I'm a member of ODM. How I wish that all the other political parties were like ODM. They need to come and learn from us. We have very good examples on how to run a political party. So I hope that the commission will start by auditing the political parties that we have in this country, because we have in excess of 70 political parties. Some of them are not even existing anywhere. I even saw the inspectors from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. You know, before they register a political party, they must ascertain that the political party has an office in a particular county. I saw someone had put a branding for a political party in a butchery. A butchery, a functional butchery. And that butchery was cleared as an office of a political party. So we hope that this new commission is not going to acquire the bad manners of the current Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, where they are clearing briefcase parties which have no offices, which have no members, and they end up now, they are registered as political parties. We want proper functional political parties with offices in at least 24 counties of this country. The issue of membership, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, membership data at the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. I don't even think that that data is reliable anymore. If you go there, you may even find that you belong to 5 political parties. You may find that you are an elected member, but the records are showing you belong to another party. How did it happen, Madam Speaker? So one of the things they need to audit when they assume office, this commission, is to have a look at the membership data for political parties in this country, harmonize it, so that, so that we have a member or a person belonging to one political parties at a time. Madam Speaker, the issue of political parties fund. The political parties fund was a good idea, Madam Speaker. But I think Treasury is violating the law, Madam Speaker. Because the law is very clear, the Political Parties Act is very clear, that a certain percentage of the national revenue should go to political parties. Right now, the Treasury or the Kenyan government owes the Orange Democratic Party 11 billion shillings. And I hope maybe Jubilee, because you are still new, maybe is in the range of 5 billion shillings. This is a lot of money, Mr. Speaker, which if it went to these parties, it will make them even more stronger. I want to disagree with those who say that all political parties in Kenya should be funded. I can only agree to that analogy, Madam Speaker, if those parties are properly regulated. If you have offices in 24 counties, functional offices, if you have membership register, if you are complying with the Political Parties Act, and if you have your members elected in positions, then you can qualify. But we cannot say all political parties, including briefcase parties, to get money from the political parties fund. So this fund must also be looked at so that only deserving political parties must get funding, and this funding must be properly audited.
Just hold on, Senator Osotsi. Professor Ojenda Odhiambo Tom, what is your intervention? What's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, under Order 41, Standing Order 41, I note that there's no quorum and that perhaps it is time that the House should adjourn so that the debate on this issue can be continued. Senator Osotsi can have time to continue. I mean, he has very good ideas, and I think especially is sharing that ODM is the only compliant party. This is a submission, Madam Speaker, that should be made when we have more of our brothers in the House, because I know he's a party leader, and I know that there are other party leaders from other regions of the country, so that General Cherargei can listen to him. I believe, Madam Speaker, this is the time when we should adjourn so that we come back at a time when Senator Osotsi can continue his submissions that are very erudite and on point, refreshing, and he comes to the party with the strength of a real party leader. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Professor Tom. Clerk, can you confirm whether we have quorum? There is no quorum. I would request the Sergeant at Arms to ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes. Having failed to attain quorum at the expiry of 10 minutes, the Senate stands adjourned pursuant to Standing Order 41-2A until Tuesday, 8th October 2024 at 2:30. Senator Osotsi will have a balance of 10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Everybody. Well, I spent a lot of money on getting on every state ballot in this country. We got 1 million Americans to sign their names to petitions. We built a network in every state in this country. The entire time, our polling and all the national polling was showing that the majority, about 57 to 60%, of the people that wanted to support me, if I dropped out of the race, they said that they wanted to vote for Donald Trump. So I was hurting Donald Trump. I was hurting the Republican Party. But the Republican Party did nothing to stop me from getting on any ballot. Donald Trump was critical of me in a way that was congenial, that was respectful, and that was kind. But he did nothing. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party spent tens of millions of dollars to defame me, to publish perjuries against me, to publish fake news against me, to marginalize me, to make me look like a crazy person, and they spent tens of millions of more dollars to get me to make sure I could not get on those state ballots. All the pundits from the beginning said, he will never get on the state ballots, but we did it despite those tens of millions of dollars and attorneys to sue us in all the states to make sure we couldn't get on. The Democratic Party sued me to keep me off the state here in Michigan, off the ballot. And the day that I announced for Donald Trump, they pivoted and sued me to keep me on the ballot. And so far, they've won that lawsuit. So my name is going to appear on the Michigan ballot. But I don't want you to vote for me. I want you to vote for Donald J. Trump. Because that's the only way that I'm going to get to Washington, D.C. and do all the things to help end the war, to end the chronic disease epidemic, to end the censorship, to end the surveillance, and all the other things that I entered this race to do. And I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I heard all of the descriptions of MAGA during the 2016 election, and I bought into a lot of them. And then one day I heard Hillary Clinton criticize Tulsi Gabbard for being a communist, a Russian plant. Tulsi Gabbard, who put her life on the line again and again for this country in military service, something that Hillary Clinton never did. And I began to have doubts about what I was being told about MAGA. And when President Trump got elected, I said 80 million people voted for him. How can we dismiss 80 million of our fellow Americans as deplorables? Oh, I don't want to work in Washington, D.C. I have a good job. I have a great life. But I want to help these kids so that we can end the chronic disease epidemic. And I went to President Trump, and I said to President Trump, if you want my help, I am here to do it. And we worked together for a while. But I started to understand that MAGA, for most Democrats, MAGA, Make America Great Again, means going back to the 1950s. And they say it's racist because we didn't have civil rights in our country at that time for black Americans. They say it's dictatorial and it's against freedom of speech because that was the era of Joe McCarthy. And they say it's isolationist and retrograde. But the more that I get to know you and the more that I get to know Donald Trump, I understand what MAGA really means. And I asked Donald Trump about what he thought MAGA meant, what era we were going to make America great again. And he said, the era of your uncle, John F. Kennedy. And that was the era when America was at its apex, here and abroad. We were the wealthiest country in the world. We owned half the wealth on the face of the earth. The American middle class was the greatest economic engine in the history of mankind. We had a robust union movement that was making sure that American labor had dignity and good jobs. We had virtually every American believed in the accessibility of the American dream, which meant at that time that if you worked hard, if you played by the rules, you could afford to buy a home. You could take a summer vacation. You could raise a family, and you could put something aside for your retirement on a single job. There's no American now in my kids' generation. Sorry, my duck is calling. There's no American now in my kids' generation who believes that that contract applies to them. This is a demoralized generation. In 2013, there was a poll in which Americans under 35 were asked, are you proud of the United States of America? And 85% of them said yes. The same poll taken 6 months ago, only 17% said yes. We have an entire generation that is alienated, that is disaffected, that has lost faith, hope for their own futures, and has lost their pride in our country. And to me, that was one of the most tragic data points that I learned about in this election. We have kids, the greatest asset that I had as a boy was this intense pride that I had about the United States of America. And we were, at that time, a moral authority around the world. The people all around the world wanted to be in America. They looked to us for leadership. They knew the difference between leadership and bullying. They didn't want us making wars. My uncle was asked by one of his best friends, "What do you want on your gravestone?" And he said, he kept the peace. He said the primary job of a president of the United States is to keep our country out of war. He said that he didn't want African children and Latin American children and Asian children, when they heard about the United States of America, to think of a man with a gun. He wanted them to think of a Peace Corps volunteer. He wanted them to think of the Kennedy Milk Program, which gave nutrition to tens of millions of hungry children around the world. He wanted them to think of USAID and the Alliance for Progress that put America on the side of the poor, not just in this country, but all around the world. And those are the same ambitions that Donald Trump has. Today, my uncle kept any American soldier during his term in office from ever going to die in combat. Today, as a result of that commitment, there are more statues to John Kennedy, more boulevards named after him, more avenues, more universities, more hospitals in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and any other U.S. president, and probably more than all other presidents combined. And that is a good foreign policy, to have the world love us. Don't you want a foreign policy where the rest of the world loves and admires the United States of America? And when he says, "Make America great again," that's what he's talking about. And one of the things that we learned at home is that we not only had to be virtuous as a nation, we had to be virtuous as individuals. We had to, for example, tell the truth when we did something wrong. So one time I hit a baseball through my mom's window and broke it. And my dad said to me, "Before you answer this question, I want you to remember what George Washington did. He cut down the cherry tree." This is a story every American knew at that time. His father asked him, "Who cut it down?" And he said, "I did." He always admitted when he was wrong. And now the Democratic Party has given us a loophole around that mandate. All you have to know is 7 words, and you never have to admit to doing anything wrong again. And do you know what those 7 words are? I was born in the middle class. Oh. So repeat after me. I was born in the middle class. So the next time your boss asks you why you were late for work, what are you going to say? And the next time your wife asks you why you didn't take out the garbage, what are you going to say? And the next time your landlord asks you for the rent check, what are you going to say? That's all you have to know, and you don't have to answer any question. And we know why she didn't want to answer that question, because there's no good answer to it. By every indicia in which we measure the welfare of our economy, the Trump administration excelled, and the Biden-Harris administration has failed us. Inflation on average during the Trump administration was held under 7%. Now it's at 20%. Gross rents have almost doubled. Mortgages have more than doubled in just 3.5 years. Groceries have gone up. Gasoline has gone up. Electricity has gone up. Healthcare has gone up. Do you know the only thing that's gone down? Wages. So, though that is not a success story, and I don't blame her for not wanting to answer that question. It was a question that was almost impossible for her to answer truthfully and still walk out of that debate. So, the Democratic Party that I grew up with, the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy, of Robert Kennedy, does not exist today. This was the party of peace. Today, it's the party of war. And we saw President Zelensky come over here. I was so proud of President Trump today, who did a press conference with Zelensky. And the Democrats had done their own press conference, and you know what he got them to do? He got them to sign artillery shells. These are artillery shells that are going to be dropped on women and children. And he got them to sign something else, an $8 billion additional check. Don't you think we could use that money over here in this country? This was a war that we were lied to from day one. We were told that it was an unprovoked invasion. We weren't told that Vladimir Putin and every other Russian leader told us for 30 years, if you go into Ukraine, we're going to have a military reaction. It is a red line for us. Ukraine has a 2,200-mile border with Russia. They've been invaded 3 times through Ukraine. Last time, Hitler killed 1 out of every 7 Russians. If we put Aegis missile systems in Ukraine, like we've done in Romania and Poland, which they also told us don't go in there, those missiles, Tomahawk missiles, which can be nuclear tipped, will be 3 miles from Moscow. We could decapitate the entire Russian leadership in 3 minutes. My uncle, when the Russians tried to put missiles in Cuba, was going to go to war. And if Putin tried to put missiles in Canada or Cuba or Mexico, we would go to war. So we had to expect that they would do exactly what they told us we were going to do. And if you go into Ukraine with NATO, we're going to go to war. And 2 days before the invasion, Kamala Harris went to Germany and said definitively, for the first time by any U.S. leader, we are moving NATO into Ukraine. And that is something that we all need to understand, that provocation. And I was so proud of President Trump because everybody says that he alienates people all over the world. He doesn't know how to be a diplomat. But he was the epitome of diplomacy, and I urge you to go look at the YouTube. He was kind and civil to President Zelensky, but he was also firm in his resolve. And he said, I've had a nice meeting, but I have not changed my mind. We need a peace, and we need to do it very quickly. And we need to protect U.S. interests, not an interest of a country in which we have no strategic interest and no treaty. And he was polite, he was kind, but he was firm in protecting our country. And that's what Donald Trump will always do. And it was especially impressive to me because I know what Donald Trump was thinking while he was having that meeting. He was thinking, I want to turn this guy over and hold him by his legs and shake all the money out of his pockets. And I hope it adds up to $208 billion because that's what we get. That's what the Democrats gave him. And we need to bring that money home and spend it here on our communities. Don't you think you deserve a president who is going to make peace with the world? Who is going to project economic power abroad? They say he's an isolationist. He isn't. He wants to make deals. He's a deal maker. He wants to make deals with China, but not the old kind of deals that benefited only China. He wants to make deals that are going to benefit everybody. He wants to make deals with Russia, the kind that will bring the world into a peaceful economic growth and a boom for all nations. This is what he says again and again. He's not a tyrant. He's not a monster. He just wants the best for the United States of America. And it don't you... The Democratic Party that I grew up with was the party of constitutional rights, of civil rights, and particularly the right of freedom of speech, which my uncle and my father treasured. They thought this is the basis. A fundamental bedrock of American democracy is the free flow of information. And when government gets involved in censoring information, that is the beginning of totalitarianism. And we know this because we read Orwell and Aldous Huxley and Robert Heinlein and Alexander Solzhenitsyn and Arthur Koestler when we were growing up. And that was the lesson that was repeated in civics lessons again and again. The one thing that you never allow a government to do is to censor speech of any kind. And if you do that, is the first step down the slippery slope of totalitarianism. So the Democrats are trying to say that Donald Trump hates democracy, that he wants to be a dictator, but they're all advocating now, openly advocating the censorship of our speech. And what they say is, well, we don't want to censor all speech, just the lies. But they want to determine what's the truth and what's a lie. And who was the biggest perpetrator of lies during the COVID epidemic? It was the government itself. They were the ones promoting disinformation and misinformation. And I saw this week Hillary Clinton, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris all using the same talking point. That the next administration is going to get rid of misinformation and disinformation because that is not protected by the First Amendment. Well, it is. The First Amendment protects lies the same as it protects speech. Truth. The First Amendment was not written to protect the kind of speech that we all want to hear. It was written for hard times. Protect the speech that nobody wants to hear. And that is the fundamental foundation stone of democracy, that everybody gets to say, to have their own truth. And as Louis Brandeis said, the remedy for bad speech is not censorship, never, because that turns to totalitarianism. The remedy for bad speech is more speech. And that's something that Donald J. Trump understands because he's been censored himself. And he understands it very acutely. He's seen the weaponization of the federal agencies to silence him, to destroy the electoral process, as they did to me. The Democratic Party has not had an election. They're saying that he's destroying democracy, but they felt that